Hello, everybody. I have a special guest with me, at least for the beginning. This is my husband, Aaron, and he's on because we are celebrating World Book Day. And so I thought it would be fun if he joined me for a little bit so we could talk about World Book Day, because World Book Day is a huge day in our house. But before we talk about that, I'm just going to say some hellos. Hello. It's nice to see everybody here. Hello and ready to read. Perfect. Talia, good afternoon. All right. So yeah, say hello in the comments. Let me know that you're here. And Aaron and I will tell you the story of World Book Day in our house. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember how it started, except that we love books. But years ago, we just found a reason. We found it to be a convenient excuse to celebrate. And so we would take like the afternoon off. We'd go to the library. We'd eat dinner at a restaurant. And then we'd go to the bookstore and spend a lot of money, too much money at the bookstore. And over the years, it's just evolved from there. And then during like the COVID lockdown, we couldn't really go out to a restaurant or to the bookstore. And so we just stayed in and spent the whole day reading or doing like virtual library tours and that kind of thing. So that's kind of what it's become. It's like a big day. We count down to it. We think about the books that we are going to read, and we make a big deal about it on social media.
Yep. All of that is true. So why don't you start? You go first, Aaron. Oh, hi, Lee. Nice to see you here. Why don't you show them the stack of books that you have that you're going to read from today, and then I will show my stack.
Like, do you want me to go through book by book, you mean? Okay, well, here's the stack. I'll go through book by book. There's 6 books. So I agonized over these books for like 2 weeks to decide what it was that I wanted to read, because I don't really read from my normal stack of books. I pick special books to read. So, should I talk a little bit about what I'm doing for, like, why I picked the books or whatever?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. So the first book I'm reading here, I started this morning, is John D. Mcdonald's The Deep Blue Goodbye. He was a prolific writer in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And if you've ever seen the movie Cape Fear, or if you've heard of it, that's probably his most famous story. It's been turned into a movie adapted from his books. Anyway, I own almost all John D. Mcdonald books, and I want to read them in order of publication. Like, I basically want to read everything he's written from start to finish. And so this is his first book, and I started this morning, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm just more than halfway through, and it's a great book. Another book here that I have is Classic Haiku. And it's a very tactile book. And then when you open it, it's got like lots of beautiful pictures with some haiku in on each page. Nice. So really excited about that. I've got Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea. This is a reread for me. I'm a big Hemingway fan. I've got some critical essays about Wuthering Heights. I enjoyed Wuthering Heights, and now I'm looking to understand it better with some insight from scholars. And so I'm reading critical essays about Wuthering Heights. I've got this book. It's a business book. I've owned it for a while, and I'm actually listening to the guy speak at an event here on Thursday. So I thought it was a good time to remind myself of what he thinks about and talks about. It's called The Replaceable Founder, and the author's name is Ari Meisel. He's all about like building systems in your business so that you don't have to be busy day by day.
Just a break for a second. Talia asked us a question here. Isn't Cape Fear a Gregory Peck movie?
Oh, yeah. They made an original movie in 1960 something. I thought it was Robert Mitchum. It might have been Gregory Peck in it too. And then they remade it in the 90s with Robert De Niro. So
do you know when it was published? The book itself?
I don't remember.
Okay.
No. It was originally published as, I think he called it The Executioners. And rebranded it as Cape Fear, as a movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
There you go, Talia. Lee, the most exciting thing in the world happened to me this morning. I actually found my copy of Middlemarch. I've been hunting in the stacks in my reading room for over 2 weeks. Whoa, Lee. I understand that. We understand about hunting for books in this house. And so, yeah, that is super exciting that you found it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and finish.
And then the last book I'm reading today is not the whole book. I have the complete works of Shakespeare, and that sounds really impressive, but I'm only reading, I've never read his historical plays, and so I wanted to start by reading one of them, and so I picked what I think is his first historical play, King Henry VI, Part 1. So that is in here.
So that's the one that he wrote first? Because it's not chronologically.
No,
first.
it's not. Yes, correct. I thought it was the first one he wrote. I might be wrong though.
You could be totally right.
I could be totally wrong too.
Anyway. I haven't read a lot of or any of Shakespeare's history plays either, and so I'm also going to be reading a play for here, but I'm going to be reading King John because I decided to start chronologically who was the earliest. So idea. I'm going with King John.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
that's it. That's my list.
All right, cool. Lee says that she wants to read Henry III. All right. I'm going to get to that. I actually made a list of the history plays in order, and I'm going to read those. So I'm going to start with King John today. Tristan and the Classics has an excellent video on it. Oh, on which one, Lee? King John or Henry? Which one? Which Henry are you reading?
King Henry VI.
Henry VI. That's cool. We'll have to look for that. I have on BritBox has the complete BBC collection of Shakespeare plays, and it's so much easier for me to understand Shakespeare when I watch it in a play. So I'm going to read the play and then watch the adaptation of it in order to try and understand it better. All Shakespeare and Henry. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have to check that out. Tristan and the Classics. Cool. Thanks, Lee. Okay, so my stack of books includes the play by Shakespeare. I am also just finishing a reread of The Boomerang Clue, which is the title in America, originally called Why Didn't They Ask Evans? And I decided to do a reread of this because I just watched the Hugh Laurie adaptation, which was great, by the way. So if anyone else has watched it, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to know other people's feelings on that adaptation. And I think that I am going to do a page to screen video because, yeah, I have some thoughts. Yeah, Lee. So I'm finishing up my reread of Why Didn't They Ask Evans, which is really a really fun adventure mystery of Agatha Christie's. It's one of my favorites. I am also finishing Wuthering Heights. I'm really close to the end on this one. And so I've already read actually the critical essays in here. So this is the Norton Critical Edition. Is that what they call it? Yeah, a Norton Critical Edition. So it's got a copy of the book itself, and then at the end they've got some essays. Some of them were okay, but there was a couple that were really, really good. And I think I'm actually going to do a dedicated video about Wuthering Heights as well, because it's been an interesting reread for me. It's been like 20 years at least since I've read Wuthering Heights, and I really enjoy it. But it's a harder book to read because it's so different from the other kind of Victorian books that were being written at the time. And it's also so different for us today to read a book that was written then, and especially this book. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a deep dive video into Wuthering Heights. And then I'm reading the second book in a duology. This is called An Ancient Strife by Michael Phillips. It's a saga of Scotland. And it's interesting the way that he writes these. I finished the first one before, and I already forgot what it was called. Oh, The Legend of the Celtic Stone. So he's got a modern day story. Actually, this was published in the late 90s, and he set his books in the very near future. In order to tell his story, he had Queen Elizabeth II abdicate the throne so that Charles could become the king. And he needed to do that in his story because he needed a coronation, because of course the stone of destiny is, supposed to be under the coronation chair for all future coronations. So he's got the modern day story, but then he intersperses it with stories from the history of Scotland, and he goes way back. In the first book, he talks like prehistory, so he goes way back. But yeah, they're really interesting. I'm also reading Murder at Madame Tussauds by Jim Eldridge. This is the latest in his museum detective mysteries, and this one, a security guard at Tussauds is found decapitated, and the two Daniel, who used to be a Scotland Yard detective, and Abigail, who is an archaeologist, get called in to investigate. And then last but not least, I have a short story from my Oscar Wilde short story collection that I want to read today. It's called The Devoted Friend. So that's what's on my pile for today. So when we do our first reading sprint, I'm going to go with Why Didn't They Ask Evans? Because I'm so close to being done. I want to finish that up. And then we will see. All right. Let's see. Lee says, I was just going to ask that and heard the same thing. I absolutely must watch that. So this is the adaptation of Why Didn't They Ask Evans, I'm guessing. Talia says, who did Hugh Laurie play in Why Didn't They Ask Evans? Having trouble picturing that. Okay, so what's interesting there is Hugh Laurie actually wrote and directed the adaptation, which I found fascinating. And then he did give himself a small role. He played Dr. Nicholson and did really well, actually, I think. Lee says, oh, good. I have a hard time with that book. Are you talking about Wuthering Heights? Probably. Talia, I've been wanting to read Wuthering Heights, never have. It's an interesting read because, yeah, it's a great book, and I do think everybody should read it. You just have to kind of be prepared for it when you go in.
I had a hard time reading it, and I found that watching things about it, even like the Thug Notes, or what you read from the critical essays, really helped enlighten. Like, oh, that makes so much sense. And it helped me enjoy the book even more. And I'm excited about going back to reread it now with that new knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the biggest things that I can say for people who are going to do a first time read of Wuthering Heights is it is not a love story. If you go into it expecting a love story, you are going to be shocked and disappointed. It's actually a revenge story. There is some love in it, but it is... it's not a love story. So yeah, I think people who go into it expecting that don't like the book because they're kind of shocked. Helen, I will reread Wuthering Heights in October. I do every couple of years along with Rebecca. So atmospheric, both of them. Oh yeah. And I think that's a great combo, Wuthering Heights and Rebecca, because they both have those gothic vibes. They're both very atmospheric. That's fantastic. I love Rebecca too. Lee says that sounds good. And it's on your shelf. Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so it is almost quarter after. So I say at quarter after, let's do a half-hour reading sprint. Are you guys okay with 30 minutes of reading sprints? Erin's okay with 30 minutes of reading sprints. So yeah, in 2 minutes, we will do, if that's okay with you, let me know. 30-minute reading sprints. Lee, just finished Wild Sargasso Sea last night. That was hard. You know what, Lee? I tried to read that a few months ago because I love Jane Eyre. And Wild Sargasso Sea is a book that was written by, I forgot her name now, but she wrote it in the 60s maybe as kind of like the story of Rochester's wife. And so I get why she did it, but it just didn't work for me. And I don't think I even finished it. I was just like, yeah, no. Oh, hello, Nadine. Nice to see you here. You will be reading A Rule Against Murder by Louise Penny. Yay! So yeah, everybody let me know what you're planning to read for the reading sprint as well. I would love to hear. I love the Armand Gamache series, Nadine, so I hope you enjoy A Rule Against Murder. 30 minutes works for you, Talia? Jackie Lou, nice to see you. 30 minutes is great. Good. Yeah, okay. Helen, hoping to finish my first Jim Eldridge tonight, Murder at the Fitzwilliam. Loving it. Oh, that's great. I'm pretty sure that's the first one in the series. Oh, so that's cool that we're both reading a book from that series, Helen. That's hilarious. Lee, yeah, Reese something. I can't remember. It seems to me that the last name is maybe starts with a J. Oh, Jean Reese. I think it's Jean Reese. Maybe. I could be wrong. 30 minutes is good. Jackie Lou is reading The Alpine Gamble by Mary Daheim. I think I may have read some of those books. Is that like a cozy mystery series about travel? Travel, like they take tours on travel. That's sounding familiar. Lee. I'm not sure what's MM Lee. Or I can read my Japan one. Yep, that would be fun too. Hummingbird, I'm reading White Sands by Sanderson. I've never read any Sanderson. Middlemarch. Excellent. Whew, that's a tome. Are you enjoying that? I've heard that can be difficult, but rewarding. That's what I've heard. I've never read Middlemarch. Okay, we're actually a minute late, so I am starting up the reading sprints now. Erin is going to go and read in a more comfortable location. Enjoy your half-hour reading sprints, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. How did your reading sprints go? I did really well. I was hoping to finish Why Didn't They Ask Evans? And I got really close. I've only got 25 pages left. So I will definitely be able to finish it in the next reading sprints. Let's catch up here on some of the comments that came in during that reading sprint. Talia says, I have trouble reading books where an author is writing other authors' characters. They don't usually get character or narrator voice right. I can see why it would be hard to read Mrs. Rochester's story. Yeah, so that's about that Wide Sargasso Sea book. It's true. An author writing another author's characters is always a little bit tricky. Jackie says, this one is a luxury spa trying to be built in Alpine where the small town doesn't want it to, and then a murder. Okay, so it's not at all what I was thinking of. But that sounds familiar too. I don't think I've read it, but I think that that's a book that I have heard of. Reading it as it was originally published. Ooh, and just finished Moby Dick. Well, Aaron will love to hear that. Moby Dick is one of Aaron's very favorite books. Annie, hi, nice to see you, Annie. She is reading This Old Homicide by Kate Carlisle. I've read most of the books in that series. I forget what that series is called, but the main character is a book restorer, which is really cool. Helen, love the mug, Janelle. I collect Penguin Classic mugs. Yes, I thought in honor of World Book Day, I should use my Pride and Prejudice mug. I love this. And I actually got this on our trip to England a long time ago. I think we went in 2009. And so I picked that up at a bookstore on the Gloucester Road in London. So I love that mug. Marlena Joe says, I'm reading two books written in the 1940s. Pied Piper, about a man trying to get out of France ahead of the Germans, and Little Boy Lost, about a man trying to find his son after the war. Cool beans. Talia says, reading A Death in Chelsea. I'd love to finish it. Hadn't realized that a third Mayfair 100 book had been released. I have the second one out from the library right now, and I haven't read it yet. And I didn't know that there was a third one either, Talia. That's really interesting. Lee says, I started something new, The Tokyo Zodiac Murders by Soji Shimati. Weird, 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 and a real story. I read that last year or a couple years ago. I really liked that one. I thought that one was a really fascinating mystery. Hi, bookworms. She's reading Run, Rose, Run. It is very good. Awesome. Hello, Naomi. I have started my nonfiction about Henry VIII, but I might switch to Murder at the Vicarage or Why Didn't They Ask Evans? That's what I'm reading right now. I'm almost done, Naomi. Have you seen the Hugh Laurie adaptation? We were talking about that earlier, which prompted my reread of this book. Yeah, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts if you have seen that adaptation. Hello, Greenstick Cottage. I'm listening to The Return of the King by Tolkien. Are you listening to the one that's read by Andy Serkis? I listened to a bit of it. I just wanted to hear his narration, and boy, he's amazing. Lee, scary that it is a real story. I don't remember the real story part of it. But yeah, if it is a real story, terrifying. Been reading The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova all day. So refreshing to pick graphic novel by Sanderson. Yeah, I bet. I have been trying to remember if that's a book that I have read or that it's just a book that I think that I have read. I'm going to have to get it out of the library and see, because it seems like a book that's right up my alley, and it's one that I would think that I have read, but I have a sneaking suspicion that maybe I haven't. Oh, I should take that. 1 second, everybody. I'll take that banner down. There we go. All right. So for the next reading sprint, I am going to finish Why Didn't They Ask Evans? And then I think that I might read my Oscar Wilde short story, The Devoted Friend. I can't remember. I think it's a longer of his short stories. I mean, what's longer and what's shorter? Some of his short stories are like 6 pages, and I think this one's over 10. But yeah, I'm going to read that one next. Naomi says, I haven't, but I really want to. I will after I refresh my memory with this reread. Yeah, I watched the first episode of Why Didn't They Ask Evans? And then I started the reread. But then I finished, there's 3 1 hour long episodes. And I finished that before I finished my reread. But it's really interesting to see what he's done with it. I really liked it. I felt like he was basically pretty faithful to the book. There are a few changes, but for the most part, they're ones that you would expect. Like, there has to be changes when you adapt a book to a movie because it's a completely different medium. And so far, I'm okay with the changes that were made. He stayed true to the tone and the plot as a whole. Greenstick, the narrator is Rob Inglis, and he is so good at it. Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. I haven't heard of him as a narrator, but narrators are so important when you're listening to audiobooks. I think, like if you don't get on with the narrator voice, it can be such a slog to listen to the story. Lee says, also finished last night. I couldn't sleep, and it is People of Book. Oh, is that the one by Geraldine Brooks? The People of the Book. Have you read any Oscar fairy tales? They are marvelous. Yes, Lee, I actually just read a few. I've been reading through the short stories with my friend Donna, and we've just finished a few of the short stories, so the fairy tales. So the Selfish Giant, which is interesting because everybody calls these Oscar Wilde fairy tales, and I can understand why, but really they're fables. I think they're fables more than fairy tales. And I read The Nightingale and the Rose and The Happy Prince. And I've really enjoyed them. They're fascinating. But yeah, I think I would call them fables more than fairy tales because of the personification of nature, which happens more in in fables than in fairy tales. Dracula and Librarians. It's a chunker at 704 pages. Whew. Yeah, that's a big book. Oops. Lee says, I liked that one. Yes, you are right. Fables. I have a book of those. All right, cool. Helen says, Hugh Laurie is reputed to be a huge Agatha Christie fan, so I can imagine he'll want to stay true to the book as far as is possible. Yeah, I think that's so cool. It's good when you get someone doing an adaptation who is a huge fan of the original author, because then you know that they will treat the work with respect. I think you always have to make some changes when you're making a movie or a mini series from a book, because it's a different medium and it's going to require some differences because you're watching visually. But I do like the changes that he made. There's one thing that he added, and I still haven't figured out why, and I don't want to mention it because it's a spoiler in both cases, for the book and for the movie. Talia says, I usually only listen to history books as audiobooks. I have trouble engaging with the characters if I listen to fiction books instead of reading them on Kindle or in physical form. Now, that's very interesting that you need that visual to engage with characters. That's very interesting. I don't listen to audiobooks as a whole very much at all, but I can see listening to history books. That would be great. Love Hugh Laurie. Yeah, me too. Naomi, I finished Gone with the Wind yesterday, so I need light reading for a bit. Whew, you're not kidding. That's another chunker, isn't it? Like, that's a really big book. It's been years and years and years since I read that book. There was a read along for that. There's been a whole bunch of people I've noticed that are reading Gone with the Wind. Lee says, yes, I love Hugh Laurie. Also excellent actor. Yeah, I agree. I think he was an excellent actor. All right. And I've seen him in a lot of different things, and I think that's one thing that makes him a good actor too, is he's able to do he's able to do a lot. So I mean, he's famous for some of his early comedy, but then of course he had the role of Dr. House, in which he played a very, very different kind of character that wasn't comedy at all. So yeah, showing his skills there as an actor. Talia says, I just purchased Gone with the Wind, hope to read it soon. Is that as a physical book, Talia, or as a on your Kindle? Lee, yeah, he did Jeeves. Oh my goodness, he was brilliant as Jeeves. Him and Stephen Fry as Jeeves and Wooster is amazing. I love that. I love that so much. I need to see more of that. Haven't seen that in a long time. Naomi, it was 1,000 pages. Whew, yeah. I've logged my experience, so I still need to go through all of that footage. Yeah, no kidding. That's a good book to vlog, I think, to vlog such a big book. I'm interested now to hear your thoughts on that, Naomi. Talia did buy it as a physical book. It really is a chunker. Yeah, it is. Greenstick Cottage. Storm Reads is doing a read along of Gone with the Wind over April and May. I just finished chapter 24. Whoa, so intense. Yeah, I thought it was, Stormy is doing, I didn't know that it was over April and May. So you've got it finished way ahead of time there, Naomi. That's great. Okay, so if you guys are okay with it, let's do another reading sprint on the hour, and we'll do another half hour. I think that would be great. If you're reading something different this time around, let me know in the comments. I'm curious. Also, since it's World Book Day, I would love to hear this is hard. I have a hard time saying what my favorite book is. So I'm just going to say this. I would love to hear what one of your favorite books is. It doesn't have to be your absolute favorite. If you, like me, have a really hard time saying this one is my favorite, but I would love to hear what is one of your favorite books of all time. I would love to know that. I always have a hard time with favorites, but The Woman in White is up there for me as a favorite book by Wilkie Collins. It's a sensation novel. It's got gothic vibes. It's so, so good. Naomi says, Hufflepuff Discovery also did a read along for March and April. Oh, so you were doing a Gone with the Wind read along for March and April, and then Stormy is doing one for April and May. That's awesome. Someone who needs a little bit longer to read the book could actually combine both of those, and then you would have 4 months to read it. That would be perfect. Lee, oh my, I just finished that too. Woman in White. So good. Lee, what did you think of it? I loved The Woman in White. So good. And it's a Victorian novel that's not scary. Like, it's pretty accessible to read. Sometimes those books that were written in the Victorian time period can be harder to read language-wise and stuff. But yeah, I liked it. Lee, you can tell I've been stuck in bed. Oh no, have you been sick? That's not good at all, Lee. Hummingbird says, my favorite book is Jane Eyre. Oh, yeah, I love Jane Eyre too. I love Jane Eyre. Greenstick Cottage. This is my 3rd time reading Gone with the Wind, so definitely one of my faves, along with The Tale of Two Cities. The 3rd time. Wow, that's amazing. I love A Tale of Two Cities. I haven't read a lot of Dickens, but right now that's my favorite Charles Dickens. Jackie Lou. 1491 by Charles Mann, or The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. I've never read either of those. Annika, hi, welcome here. Nice to see you. Favorites are so hard to pick, yeah, but Woman in White is a definite contender. Yes. Hi, nice to see you. Talia says, one of my favorite books is Lady Susan. Oh, I love Lady Susan. Jane Austen. Oh, man, that one is so good. Helen Clare, top 3 at the moment. It is interchangeable, of course. Rebecca, The Woman in Black, and 84 Charing Cross Road. Nice. I've read 2 of those. Lee says, my favorite is Three Musketeers. Very good. I haven't read that one either. Bookworm says it is it be King. Oh, It by Stephen King will always be my fave. All right, very good. I haven't read that. I'm a scaredy cat. I haven't read very much Stephen King. Naomi, and Then There Were None is definitely in my top 10 of all time. Oh, yeah, And Then There Were None. So good. Lee, Helen, I have read Charing Cross and bought her other 2. I haven't read any of her other books, but 84 Charing Cross Road is delightful. Talia says that, of course, most Agatha Christie books are among my favorites. Yeah. Annika says, my favorite reading memory is Asher Lev by Chaim Botok. All right, good. That's cool. Lady Susan is great. Naomi. Annie, Rebecca is a favorite, and next month I'm going to read Frenchman's Creek. Oh, that's fantastic. I need to read more Daphne du Maurier. I love her. I loved Rebecca, but I haven't really read much else. Circling the Sun. All right, cool. I haven't read that. Helen says, yes, Talia, Agatha is in a league of her own. Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, we are past the hour now, so let's do another 30-minute reading sprint. So we will read until the half hour. So yeah, enjoy your reading, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great time reading. I finished Why Didn't They Ask Evans, and I love it. It's a great Agatha Christie, really fun. Yeah, there was some details that I had forgotten about, and so I'm glad I reread it. Now I can do a good comparison to the Hugh Laurie adaptation, and really I think it was a really good adaptation. The end, there's a slight change at the end, but one that I'm okay with. I don't want to talk about it in detail here and give some spoilers, but yeah, it was good. And then I've started The Devoted Friend in my Oscar Wilde short stories. And what's interesting, this is another one of his fairy tales. They classify them as Oscar Wilde fairy tales, but honestly, like, they're fables more so than fairy tales, because fables have the personification of nature and then a moral at the end, and that's definitely true of these ones. But what's hilarious about The Devoted Friend is that it's a fairy tale within a fable, which is funny. Okay, so let's see how you guys did. Lee says you will love Frenchman's Creek. I'm sure that I will. Annika says, yes, I agree with you. Kate, hi, Kate. Nice to see you here. She says, I'm fashionably late reading A Midsummer Night's Dream and The Last Bookshop in London later. Nice. I have The Last Bookshop in London on my list of books to read soon. I'm really excited about that one. Historical fiction set in London during World War II. And A Midsummer Night's Dream is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. So that's awesome. Bookworms Buddy says, finished Run Rose Run by Dolly Parton and Jay Patterson. Oh, that's very interesting. I've never heard of that one. James Patterson and Dolly Parton. That's a pairing for you. Jackie Lou, I loved Why Didn't They Ask Evans? Fun to compare to the show. Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a fun video to make. Rima got to 5% and my cat is sleeping on my lap. Oh, how cozy. Lee, that was fast. I changed books. That was too grim. So now I'm reading Aristotle Detective by Margaret Duty. Interesting so far. Glad I know about the language. Yeah. Helen, 2 more chapters read and some multitasking. Perfect. Talia, I read about 15% more of A Death in Chelsea. Excellent. Naomi says, I got a good chunk into my Henry VIII nonfiction. I just need to get it done before the end of the month. It is good, at least. Well, yes, at least. Who's the author of your Henry VIII? Naomi, I have a few books on my shelves, nonfiction about Henry VIII. And of course, I'm sure there's a lot written about him. I'm curious who wrote that one. Bookworms, oh my goodness, it was so good. I'm glad. That's good. I'm glad it was good. Talia, I read and knit simultaneously, so I don't know how far I might have gotten otherwise. That is very cozy. Berna, yay. Hi, Berna. Nice to see you here. I joined the sprint 15 minutes ago and reading the Turkish book Mehmed, My Hawk 2. Excellent. That's so good. I'm so glad you're here, Berna. Nice to see you. And Donna, nice to see you too. Hi, Janelle. I just tuned in during the last sprint. I am reading The Deep by Rivers of Solomon in chapter 6 of 9 chapters. My cat Goofy is right next to me watching you. Hi, Goofy. Talia says, I read and knit simultaneously. Sorry. I got out of order here. Rima says, I got the book on Libby. Cool. Naomi, Derek Wilson. It is about the politics and reformation that took place during his life. That's interesting. That whole thing of seceding from the Catholic Church and creating the Church of England. That was a huge deal. And of course, he only did it because he wanted a divorce. But boy, did it ever start something, hey? Lee says, did you know that Cicero wrote a whole book about murder trials? He went through all of the murder court papers. Really? That's cool. Aaron might like that. Aaron loves reading about Roman stuff. Aaron, are you a fan of Cicero?
remember who is what in Roman times.
Yeah. Donna, Goofy says hi back with a head rub and eye squint. Aw. Annika, I almost finished Barchester Towers, which I'm loving today, but now switched to What Alice Forgot. Very interesting. I love Barchester Towers. That was the very first Anthony Trollope that I ever read years ago, and I just loved it. I loved the tone. I loved the unexpected humor. And I read it and I didn't even realize that it was part of a series, because it's technically the second one in that series. And so I've now gone back and I've read The Warden, which is the first one, and I have the third one, Dr. Thorne, on my shelves. So I want to continue with that series. I'm going to do a reread of Barchester Towers. I'm really excited, and then continue on and read Dr. Thorne. Lee says, a penguin black spine. Nice. I love those penguin black spines. Talia, what is the name of that Cicero book, please? Talia loves history. I do too, but I do not read nearly as much history as Talia. I love history, and I have a lot of history books on my shelf, but I just don't seem to get to them as much as I would like. Talia, though, you read a lot of history. Bookworms, I liked What Alice Forgot. Who wrote that one? That sounds very familiar. Lee says, tell your hubby that Robert Harris has written one called Pompeii. Robert Harris, like the thriller writer Robert Harris? Have you read any of Robert Harris, Aaron?
Yeah, didn't he write Oh, I haven't read him, but I've got a bunch of his books that I plan to read.
Aaron says he's never read Robert Harris, but he has a bunch of his books that he plans to read. And Pompeii, like, how fascinating is that, right? Yeah. Annika says, I read The Warden last October. Barchester Towers almost gives me Jane Austen vibes somehow. I can see that, Annika. Yeah, I can see that. Lee says, Talia, it is just called Murder Trials by Cicero. Cool. Leanne Moriarty wrote What Alice Forgot. Okay. Because I haven't read hardly anything by Leanne Moriarty, maybe one, so it could have been that one that I read. Is that the one where there's a group of friends who are keeping a secret? I think that's the one that I read. Leanne Moriarty is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. Cool beans, everybody. All right. So for the next reading sprints, Talia says, I'll have to look up Barchester Towers. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Barchester Towers is brilliant. It's so good. Lizzie. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? Happy World Book Day to you. We know how to celebrate in this house. We've been reading all day. It was great. This morning when we got up, we made coffee and we put some classical music on, and we've both been just sitting on the sofa. We read all morning. We had a quick visit. Some friends dropped by, brought us some cookies, yummy, which were so good. But we've just been reading, and we're planning to basically just continue to read for the rest of the afternoon. And then we're going out for supper tonight, which is a huge deal for us because this will be the first time we've actually had a meal in a restaurant basically since the pandemic started. So that's very exciting. But of course, you have to celebrate World Book Day in style, right? Talia says, thanks for info on the Cicero book, Lee. Annika says, it's about a woman with memory loss. Interesting concept. Oh, yeah. I love stories about memory loss. So fascinating. Annika says, I liked it too. Kate, Janelle, that sounds like such a wonderful day. Yeah, it is. It's pretty great. It's been pretty great. Definitely. And a perfect day to stay inside and read because it is still quite chilly. Like, we're actually above zero temperatures. For the past week, we were below zero and snowy, which you'll love towards the end of April, right? But it's actually finally gone above zero. But with the wind, it still feels really chilly, and it's overcast and cloudy. And so it's the perfect day to just stay inside under a blanket, read a book, drink some hot coffee. Oh, yeah. Perfect. Annika, yeah. Bookworm Buddies likes Leanne Moriarty. Lee Kemper, speaking on Bronte, has anyone read Charlotte Bronte's The Professor? Now, that's one that I have not read. I've read Jane Eyre and I've read Shirley, but I have not yet read The Professor. It is on my shelf, though. Berna, it's a national holiday in Turkey as well as World Book Day. Perfect. So does that mean that you got to stay home today, Berna? Was it a day off of work because it was a national holiday? So that's perfect. Talia, I own The Professor, haven't read it yet. Yeah. Rima, gonna have to return Circling the Sun. You ran out of time or you just aren't liking it? Who wrote that one? Circling the Sun? I've already forgotten if you've told me. Okay, so how about at the quarter two, we do another 20-minute or 30-minute reading sprint. We'll read till quarter after. That would be great. I will finish my short story, The Devoted Friend. And once I'm done that, then I think that I will move to Wuthering Heights. Oh, I just have to show you this. Isn't this like a hilarious cover? Yeah, I love it. So that's what I will be reading this time around. Naomi says, I read The Professor a while ago. I gave it 3 stars as I was middle of the road with it. It wasn't bad or great. Okay. Yeah. I had very similar feelings for Shirley. Actually, it was very middle of the road. It was okay. It wasn't great. And there were moments where I definitely had to push myself to keep going with it. Lee says, Talia, so very different. You would never believe it was written by Bronte. Interesting. Donna says, I did go to the library this morning and picked a book off the shelf that Sharon Riddler has on her shelf. Realistic Watercolor by Mario Andre Robinson. Got some children's picture books too. That's great, Donna. That's something that isn't part of our day today, but usually is for World Book Day. We usually try to visit the library, but we didn't today, but that's okay. We are surrounded by books in our house, so. Talia, good to know, Lee. I might read that one before Wuthering Heights. Rima, Paula McLean. Oh, and you ran out of time. Okay. Berna, it is a weekend this year, but normally we do not work today when it is weekdays. Oh, right. I knew that. I knew today was a Saturday, but I just totally forgot. Annika, you live in a library? Yes, basically that's true. We do. We do live in a library. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so in honor of World Book Day, where is your favorite place to read? Where is your favorite place to read? I would love to know. My favorite place to read is actually here on this sofa. It's very comfortable. I can put my feet up. I have spots to put my tea, or that I'm usually drinking tea or coffee. And yeah, it's just a really comfortable place. I like to cozy up under a blanket. So this is my favorite place to read. I'd love to hear from you guys where your favorite place to read is. And in about a minute, a little less than a minute, we will start our final, maybe final, we'll see. We'll start another half-hour reading sprint. Lee says, favorite place is my new reading room, transformed my guest room. Ooh, that sounds lovely, Lee. Nice. Helen says, favorite place to read, no competition, in bed at night. I love to read in bed at night too. I have to. I read in bed every night. I have to read or else I can't fall asleep. It's a weird thing. Bookworms, buddy. I read in my library, den, or bedroom. Sweet. Elizabeth, I'm reading Plain Secrets by Kit Wilkinson for Amish in April. It's a love-inspired suspense novel. Nice. Elizabeth, I got Assaulted Caramel from the library, and so that's a book that I will be starting soon too for Amish in April. I'm excited. Talia, I love to read at my desk in my room. I can have tea and a snack on my desk, and I have a better chance of staying awake. I get that. Greenstick Cottage, I like to read in a recliner. I don't currently have one, but that needs to be corrected. Well, yeah, if that's where you like to read, then yeah, that needs to be corrected. Berna, my favorite place to read is the TV chair I am watching this video. Sweet. Naomi, my bed, but I tend to read the most when I help the kids sleep at work. Yep, that's good. Donna, I read on my bed. I also like to read out in the glider on the porch, especially art books or children's books. Oh, that sounds lovely. Annika, my favorite place in the evenings is on my sofa with a gifted crocheted blanket and under my covers in bed. Yeah, so cozy. Jackie Lou, I have a great flexible lawn chair that I can read in my sun porch. Nice. Anna, I love to read in bed at night and sometimes for a while in the morning. Perfect. Elizabeth, fun. That's a great series. Yeah, so that's the first book in the Amish Candy Shop mystery series. It's a cozy mystery. I plan to start that one very, very soon. Okay, everybody, let's do another reading sprint. We will read until quarter after. Have fun, everybody. Hello and welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a great time with your reading sprints. Aaron is joining me again. He's going to talk about some books that he's read. But first, I need to do a quick catch up on some comments that came in during the sprints. Hummingbird said, going to participate in the historical fiction readathon in May. Katie from Books and Things is running it. Yes, I have heard of that readathon, and that sounds fantastic. I love historical fiction. If I wasn't already completely full with stuff going on in May, I would join that in a heartbeat. Rima says, I love Libby. Yeah, it's a great platform for borrowing ebooks and e-audiobooks. It's fantastic. I'm doing Medieval-a-thon. Now that sounds interesting. I think we require a little more information about that, if you please. Hummingbird says, bed is my favorite place to read. Yeah. Rima, a mat I have, or the couch, depends. Okay, yeah, comfy. Lee, oh, please tell us more about the Medieval-a-thon. I would love that. Yes, I agree. Talia, a Medieval-a-thon. Who's doing that? This is awesome. Everybody's interested in the Medieval-a-thon, and it's funny because I haven't heard of that one before. Donna says, hi, Aaron.
Hi, Donna.
Bookworm says, hello, Aaron.
Hello, Bookworm.
Helen, one chapter left. Don't want it to end. Oh, yes, I get that. All right, Aaron, tell us about what you've been reading.
All right. Well, I started and finished John D. Mcdonald, The Deep Blue Goodbye. Do you want me to just say a little bit about it?
Sure.
All right. And so this is John D. Mcdonald's first book. It was written in 1964. It's also the debut novel of a recurring character of his named Travis McGee. And this really has a feeling of like a hard-boiled type of story. It's like he's like a guy who exists kind of like just on the edges of social norms. He lives in a boat. He doesn't have a real job. He just finds things for people. And in this book, he kind of hunts down this. It's too long to explain, but he just hunts down this man had robbed a family, a friend of a friend, and he kind of hunts down the man. And and so it was really good. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to read all of John D. Mcdonald's books that he wrote. And I'm going to read them in order of publication. So this is the first book, and I'm a big fan. So
that's good. You were telling me earlier there was a part in there. There was this woman that he was helping out. And so she was staying on his boat for a little while because she had nowhere else to stay. And so Aaron told me about this one part where he comes back and he was like, okay, so are you going to make me dinner?
Yeah, the book is written in the 60s, and there's definitely parts in it that feel dated for what I would say would be like, normal, modern social ideas about gender roles and whatnot. So I got to kind of just read it as a slice of life back then and be thankful that we don't maybe have those same ideas right now.
That's true.
All right. And then this book here is Classic Haiku. It's a collection of famous Japanese haiku writers.
I'm going to go a little closer so you can see because it's so beautiful.
Very tactile cover, and the inside has lots of photos in it with a couple haiku on each page. And and there's a bit of history of haiku at the beginning, and so it just talks about the poetry form. And I really like haiku because traditional. I mean, there was some variation, of course, but most traditional haiku had 17 syllables. Okay. We follow that in English, and that was true in the original Japanese. And I just love that. Like, it's not just like a poem that has a certain meter to it, but they just had to work so hard to get a very specific. Like, you really have to like press your words into a diamond to get like this amazing piece of haiku. And one thing I learned while reading this is that lots of haiku, there are 3 lines. I think most people know it's 3 lines of like 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. Mm-hmm. And often the first 2 lines describe something, and then the third line, this is new to me, the third line was maybe explanatory or provided a different perspective or kind of like gave a twist to an understanding. So I thought that was a neat way to understand and read haiku.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at some of the comments. Let's see. Okay, so Casey. Oh, hi, Casey from Victoria, BC. She's 2 provinces over. I'm late to the party, but here now. Nice to have you here. Naomi, I'm going to low-key participate in Mary Shelley May. I am now half through Henry VIII is going well. That's great. Mary Shelley May. I don't know what it is. May is becoming a very busy month in the booktube world. But Mary Shelley May, that sounds great. Lee, hi, Aaron. The Pompeii book by Robert Harris is really good. I'm going to finish it. I have a sneaking suspicion we have that.
Oh, book. Yeah. I think it's sitting in the place where I like to read, in the
book nook.
The book nook. And it's like just sitting there tempting me every time I go in there and look at it.
Nice. Annie, finished my book. Great. Reading Dead Again by Vanetta Chapman next. Excellent. Rima, on Libby, I'm listening to Forget Me Not. I am 20% in. That's great. Donna, I used to have a bunch of Mcdonald's books and read a couple. I think Sue Grafton loved to read him. You can totally see elements of that style of book in the Sue Grafton books. Although I wouldn't say that Sue Grafton is hardcore, hard-boiled, but there are definite elements of hard-boiled in Sue Grafton, I would say. Naomi says, Medievalathon is by Holly Hart's books, and it is all of May. It is fun and not intense unless you want it to be. Well, thank you, Naomi. That's great. I'm going to be looking that up. I had never heard of it, but I frankly love books that are set in the medieval time period. I read a lot of historical mysteries, for example, that are set during the medieval time period. Pillars of the Earth is set during the medieval time period, and I read that a few months ago and absolutely adored it. And I'm actually going to be reading with Carolyn the second one in that trilogy. Well, I guess it's not a trilogy anymore, but World Without End. We're going to read that in May, and it's a couple hundred years later, but I think we're potentially... maybe it's not in the medieval time period anymore. Is the 1300s the medieval time period still? Possibly.
I don't know.
Maybe. I'll have to check. Jackie Lou says, The Deep Blue Goodbye sounds good for my Goodreads group. Books need to be older than 1970, and I needed one that starts with a D. We don't count the... Well, there you go. Perfect.
It's not a story for everyone. There's some really uncomfortable violence in it. So just be warned of that.
Okay. Good warning. Bookworm says, I love haiku. Helen, it's always interesting to hear what authors read, who they rated highly. That's true, actually. Yeah. Rima, Holly Hart's art is doing the Medievalathon. Yeah, that's great. I will definitely be looking that up for more information. Donna says, I love haiku, have written a few. What a beautiful book, Aaron. Yes. Talia says, thanks, Naomi. I was afraid that I would have to leave before I got an answer. I do have to split, but I'll check out Holly Hart's books. Well, thanks for being here, Talia. It was nice to read with you for a while. Annika says, oh, that's a fun book about haiku. I've tried to write some in the past. It's a very different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Jackie Lou, I found the Pompeii book at the last library sale. Perfect. I love library sales. It has been so long since we've been to a library sale.
Way too long.
Way too long. Bookworms, now reading As She Fades by Abby Glines. All right, cool. Lee, I just finished Mort d'Arthur. That is cool. I have never read that one. I'm not sure if we have that one or if we have a different one about Arthur on our shelves. I can't remember now. Rima, oops, not art, but books. Fair enough. Berna, I'm participating in May of the Moderns with 3 short books, but I am not doing the prompts. See, what did I say? Here is another readathon in May of the Moderns. So we have the Global Nurses. What is that one called? I'm hosting it. I should know what it's called. Global Nurses Month readathon, May of the Moderns, Medievalathon, the historical fiction readathon.
Is there a Mary Shelley one too?
And the Mary Shelley one. That's 5. Wow.
It's because there's only one month that starts with M, right? And all is March.
No,
too,
there's March. March is also a big month for readathons.
We need it for the alliteration. The alliterative titles.
That's right. Oh dear. All right. So, I can tell you what I read. So I read The Devoted Friend in my Oscar Wilde short stories. Hilariously, it is a fable with a fairy tale inside the fable. It is definitely a fable because it's got the personification of nature. We have Old Water Rat is a character, and Duck is a character, and Linnet is a character, Green Linnet. And then Linnet says that he is going to tell the story of the devoted friend. Once upon a time, said the Linnet, there was an honest little fellow named Hans. And that is 100% a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. So you have a fairy tale embedded in a fable, which is awesome. Although the very ending is great because you get like there's always the moral at the end. The moral is clear, like you are bashed over the head with it during the fairy tale, but the very end of the fable is interesting because the water rat who was supposed to get the moral from the fairy tale doesn't, and says he says, the Linnet says, you don't quite see the moral of the story. And he says, what? The moral? You didn't tell me the story had a moral. And then he was all offended. He was like, I wouldn't have listened if I knew the story had a moral. So that's kind of funny, actually. And then I read some more in Wuthering Heights. I'm getting close to the end now. Really, really enjoying my reread of it for sure. Bookworms. I am doing series-a-thon in May. Okay, so now we're at 6. Oh, that's brilliant. And I'm also doing some big buddy reads that are in May too. And so May is a big month. Brima, I have to clean my cat's litter box, but I'm gonna listen to an audiobook while I do it. Sounds like a good plan. Never a good time, but has to be done, right? Naomi, I see it as a personal challenge to make books count across as many readathons as possible with as few books as possible.
Brilliant.
That's great. I mean, that allows you to participate, right? Like that's the great thing about BookTube is you want to participate in all of this stuff, but I mean, it can get a little bit overwhelming at times. Berna says, finished my section for today in the Turkish book and then started today's section of Blind Assassin by Margaret Atwood. Aaron, I think you've read more Margaret Atwood than I have. Or have you just read what you had to read in school?
I like Margaret Atwood, but I only read what I had to read in school.
We had to read The Handmaid's Tale.
Yep. And
I think that's it. I think that's all I read. Have you read The Blind Assassin?
No, I'm trying to remember. Wait, did she write Stone Angel?
No, Stone Angel was Lawrence. Margaret Lawrence.
Different Margaret.
Both Canadian authors, though. Yeah.
Then no, I only read The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, interesting. Having all these readathons is fantastic. We can pick and choose what we are interested in. Excuse me. I wouldn't do them all. Yes, Helen, I wouldn't do them all either. It would just cause so much stress. Annie, good idea, Naomi. Yeah, definitely. Bookworm says May is also my birthday month. Oh, that's fantastic. Happy birthday coming up soon. Okay. So, are you guys up for another reading sprint? If so, we can go on the half hour and read until the hour. I would be up for that if you guys are. Naomi says, I have decided that Margaret Atwood is not for me. We just don't get along. I can completely understand that. The Handmaid's Tale, I understand why we had to read it in school, but it was just so disturbing. Although the one book of hers that I am curious to read is Alias Grace. That's Margaret Atwood, right?
I don't know.
I think so. I think that's Margaret Atwood. Because that feels a little bit more like a mystery, like it's about a maid that gets blamed or arrested for something. I think. Lee, you have to get going. That is totally fine. It was so fun to have you here. Bookworm, thank you. Donna, read on. Annika, I'm in. Jackie, Lou, another reading sprint would be great. Helen, yes, more reading. Okay, well then let's go. Let's continue on. Annie says I'm going to keep reading. Aaron just says goodbye. He's going to go read over in his on his sofa. So yeah, we will read until the hour, and that will be fantastic. So there we go. All right, have fun reading, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. That was a good reading sprint. I finished a couple chapters in Wuthering Heights. I've got about 50 pages left. And then I started reading again Murder at Madame Tussauds by Jim Eldridge. This is a fun historical mystery set in 1896. The body of the night watchman is found dead in the Chamber of Horrors at Madame Tussauds. His head was cut off and left by the guillotine in the Chamber of Horrors, which is awful. And Daniel and Abigail investigate. Daniel is, he used to be Scotland Yard and now he's a private detective. And Abigail is an archaeologist with, she graduated from Cambridge. She's just a really, really smart cookie. Anyway, these are really fun historical mysteries. All right. So Berna, just before our last reading sprint, she said, Alias Grace is a book that I would like. The Blind Assassin is challenging, but I like the writing. So I think that I'm going to give Alias Grace a shot. I think I like the plot sounds interesting to me. What's going to be the kicker is whether or not I get on with Atwood's writing style. Naomi said, I tried that one of hers, but Atwood's writing just didn't work. I will try the adaptation, though. Yeah, I have the adaptation is on my list of things to watch. Nadine says, I'm participating in the 52 Book Club's 2022 Reading Challenge. 52 prompts to fill has been fun. That's great. So, yeah, that sounds like a fun reading challenge. I've never heard of that one. Grace Ann reads. Hello, everyone. Just tuned in. Nice to have you here, Grace Ann. Lee has left us. Bye-bye, Lee. Hummingbird. I'm reading Pillars of the Earth in May for the Historical Fiction Readathon by Katie from Books and Things. I hope you enjoy it. I loved Pillars of the Earth, and I'm actually reading the second one, World Without End, in May with my friend Carolyn. And so, yeah, that will totally count for the Historical Fiction Readathon. I'm excited. Rima says, loving my audiobook. Oh, good. Grace Ann, I'm reading No Exit by Taylor Adams. I haven't read that one. I'm a little nervous to read that one. I've heard a lot about it and it sounds great, but it also sounds scary. So yeah, let me know what you're thinking of that one, Grace. Rima says, got to 42% and it's so good. Oh, that's great. Bookworms, buddy, about 85% into As She Fades. Pretty heart-wrenching right now. Donna, have 22 pages left to read in The Deep by Rivers Solomon. That's great. You can probably get that done today, Donna. Grace Ann, I tried Oryx and Crake by Atwood. Did not like it at all. Yeah, I really think it's about her writing style and whether or not you get on with it. It works for some people and not for others, I think. Nadine, 56 pages into A Rule Against Murder, and I'm loving it. The Armand Gamache series is definitely one I'm trying to catch up with. I love that series, mostly because I love the character of Armand Gamache. He is such a good man, and, he has so many struggles to do what's right. And yeah, that's why I love that series so much. Helen says, finished Murder at the Fitzwilliam, 4 stars. I will continue on in the series. Love the characters and the historical detail. Yeah, that's what I like too. I like the historical detail. The time period is great, late Victorian time period. And yeah, he does that in all of his books. He has this great historical detail in each story. And I love this with this museum detective series. Each one is set at a different museum. And so I love that you get like a little glimpse into that museum in each book. Naomi says, I have 100 pages left of Henry VIII. So this was so productive for me. I needed a kick to get started and I'm happy I did. I'm glad, Naomi. That's great. Grace Ann reads, loving No Exit so far. I love any thriller book that includes a snowstorm. Yeah, so like they're kind of all stuck there I don't know, are they stuck or not because of the snowstorm? They're at a gas station, isn't that right, Grace Ann? As far as I remember from what I have been told. Jackie Lou, Armand Gamache's family is so interesting too. Yeah, he has a really interesting family. Naomi, I was 200 pages into Oryx and Crake and genuinely forgot I was reading it. I guess it was forgettable to me. Yeah, I guess so. Berna finished 2 chapters of The Blind Assassin, and now it is time for me to sleep. It was great to join the sprint and read for a while. I'm so glad that you joined us, Berna, and I hope you have a great sleep. Grace Ann, yes, stuck at a rest stop. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Attica loves snowstorms and thrillers and mysteries. I do too. Like, I love that. As long as the snowstorm causes a group of people to be stuck somewhere together, I do love that setup in a mystery for sure. All right. Well, everybody, this has been a load of fun. It's been so great to spend part of my World Book Day with you. Getting to read and chat with you guys has just been a lot of fun. And so I'm going to sign off. And basically, I'm just going to keep reading for a little bit longer, and then Aaron and I are going to head out to supper, and then we'll see what the evening has in store. Bookworm says, "Has anyone read Baby Teeth?" Who wrote that? Bookworms? That's not sounding familiar to me. Nadine, great sprint. Thanks for hosting. You are very welcome. Yeah, like I said, I love spending my time with you guys, and so this has been great. Marlena Joe, thanks for a great afternoon. Enjoy your supper out. Thank you. Marlena Joe is my mother-in-law, and she is fantabulous. Annika, thank you for this little celebration, and enjoy the rest of your day together. Thank you, Annika. So yeah, I will say goodbye, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your World Book Day, however you choose to spend it. Thanks, Donna. Have a wonderful night out, you two, Donna says. Helen, thanks, Janelle. Enjoy the rest of your day. Yeah. Jackie Lou, thanks, Janelle. This was a great break in the weekend. Oh, that's good. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic World Book Day. I hope you read fantastic things and that you have a great, great weekend. Naomi says, this is always fun. Happy World Book Day. Yes. Happy World Book Day. Okay, that's going to be it from me. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again soon. Okay, bye.